पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः शृण्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। So the third part of this chapter is who is a devotee. If someone thinks that if one goes to a temple one is a devotee, puts on some specific marks, puts on some clothes, does some puja, that is only one aspect. Devotion can express through that. But Bhagavan doesn't consider those, neither does he mention that here, that such a person is a devotee. So the qualities are given here. Whoever has these qualities, that person is considered not only as a devotee by the Lord, but the Lord says in these verses, such devotees are extremely dear to him. So now there are these 36 qualities that are going to be existed in this chapter. These qualities are qualities of a devotee who has become one with the Lord, who identifies oneself completely with the Lord, does not have ego. So these are qualities of a bhakta, parabhakta, supreme devotee, who has become one with the Lord. So in the Gita, in different places, we have the same description under different headings. In the second chapter, we have Sthitaprajna Lakshana, a man of realization. 18 verses describe that. 14th chapter, we will see Gunatita, somebody who has gone beyond the 3 gunas. Here we have Bhakta Lakshana. Another place we have Sannyasi Lakshana. So these qualities appear, if we analyze all of them, they are similar. So they describe the man of perfection. So through the path of devotion, what is the culminating point? What is the peak that the person reaches, and what are the qualities such a person exhibits? So for us, these are sadhanas also. For a man who has become one with that Lord, for that devotee, these are qualities which are spontaneous and natural. But for a seeker, these are to be cultivated. And they will not only aid in increasing devotion, but they will ultimately lead to the oneness with the Lord. So now let us see what does the Lord say here. Verse number 13. Adveshta sarvabhutanam Maitra karuna evacha Nirmamo nirahankaraha Samadukha sukha kshami. So he says, first quality is Adveshta sarvabhutana. One who has no dvesh towards anybody. if I am a devotee and I have a dvesh towards somebody, I am still attached. I still have rag and dvesh. This is our culture. No dvesh towards anybody. It doesn't say that if you don't believe in my religion, you are to be eliminated or to be converted. No dvesh towards any being. That is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That is universal culture. That is oneness. Doesn't matter what caste, color, creed, community, whatever you are. The same divine is there in each one. And that divinity, until I don't see, I am not a proper devotee. So, Adveshta Sarva Bhutana. So, why Dvesh should not be there? The first quality of all other qualities he mentioned, no Dvesh towards anybody. There are many other qualities he mentions, but this is the first one. These are not arranged in one sequence. That is also we should understand. But one reason why he mentioned this first. So when there is dvesh towards anyone, it will happen only when there is a sense of difference. Where there is no sense of difference, there will only be love. So for example, in this whole body of ours, each part is different from the other. But do we have dvesh towards any part? Even if our own finger goes and pokes our own eye, will we have dvesh towards the finger? Our own teeth bites our tongue. We have dvesh towards the teeth. We don't have. Why? Because I am all this. At functional level, what needs to be done, one will do it to repair the damage, what has happened. But otherwise, no dvesh. Like a child and the mother is kicked by the child, small child. Mother is not going to take offense. Because there is certain oneness. So if a 1-year-old baby kicks the mother will not even take any offense, she will not feel hurt. 3-year-old baby kicks the mother, may take a little offense, that why is this baby kicking? 7-year or 8-year-old baby, mother will discipline her, don't do that. But will she have dvesh? Will she say, I will tie your leg and kick now onwards? 15-year-old baby is not a baby anymore. 15-year-old young person, if he kicks, it will hurt. But mother will still forgive. 30-year-old person will kick, then forgiving also very difficult. Suppose 50-year-old and actually throws the mother out of the house, will feel very, very bad, but will she hate the child? She may not be able to take that. Very deeply she will be hurt. But will she hate the child? Never hate the child. Somehow forgive and forget. Even if it takes long time that the hurt is there, hate will not happen. But suppose daughter-in-law kicks the mother, then will she forgive? Today morning only I saw one clip was going viral, horrible clip. That mother-in-law is being strangled by their daughter-in-law. What nonsense. It is caught on camera and people are forwarding it also. She is beating her up like anything and strangling her to death. Why? Because so much of dvesh, hate. Because you are different. The same thing, no? My father, the son and the daughter-in-law. But son is mine and the daughter-in-law is not mine. So the dvesh comes, the feeling of hate comes the moment I see difference. The moment I see oneness. Oneness will bring love. And that's why at whichever level one can see oneness, then that feeling will be of love, accommodativeness, not of hate. And we have to know one thing which we all know, but we have to feel that deeply. The person who gets angry, the person who hates, so the person who hates will start abusing verbally and then become violent. That person actually suffers the maximum. Because I cannot hurt anybody before I hurt myself. We generally don't recognize that, and in our anger, when we go and hurt somebody because we are angry, we have that feeling of dvesh in the heart. So a strong dislike ultimately leads to hatred. So in Sanskrit there is only one word for this. There are not two words. It is dvesh only. Hate also is dvesh. Dislike also is dvesh. It will start with a small dislike. You may start disliking something about somebody, and then slowly it can become, because one builds on that. So he says, Adveshta sarva bhutana, no dvesh towards anybody. So has my devotion become mature or not? How do I understand? If my heart is filled with goodness for everybody. Right now this season is going on. The festival is Pongal. So Pongal actually is a harvest festival. So when the Pongal is cooked, they will allow that Pongal to overflow. Then that is means not only it has got cooked, but that is the ritual. You have to allow that Pongal to overflow and fall out of the pot. One of the symbolisms there is let purity and goodness overflow. Don't wait for somebody else to be good. You be good. It should overflow from me, even if they are being bad. Functionally, yes, the mother will discipline the child. What she has to do, she will still do. He's not saying that the child should be allowed to do whatever the child wants, but no dvesh inside. And Arjun also is told the same thing by Bhagavan, that you have to kill Duryodhana, but you cannot have dvesh towards Duryodhana. Then you are building your own negative karma by having dvesh. Unfortunately, this philosophy has got misunderstood in our country. So we allow people to come and trample over us. As long as that clarity was there that we need to defend ourselves, but no dvesh. Because by doing dvesh, I am only building my own negative karma. I am destroying my peace of mind. Because the word dvesh, not Sanskrit sandhi wise, but if you just split that, it is dvi-vish. It is double poison. It poisons my mind, it poisons the mind of the other person. So it is double poison and it is just going to be destructive. So first quality he says, Adveshta sarva bhutana, no dvesh towards any being. Most difficult thing to do. So if there is one thing which is very tough to do, and that is to love all. So really the spiritual growth in somebody has happened when they have love for all beings. One of the qualities of any saint is that only, love for all beings. No hatred towards anybody. So Adveshta sarva bhutana. If I cannot have love towards all and no dvesh absolutely and be all the time loving to them, at least let me follow the second quality, Maitra. Maitra means friendliness. Friendly I can be to people. Person who knows to be friendly will never be lonely. And when there are friends in one's life, happy. In any situation you can make anybody a friend. You can make friends with not only human beings. Animals are better friends actually. Plants also. Birds. Anyone. So Maitra is a feeling of friendliness. So the word Maitra comes from the word Mitra. One of the meaning of the word Mitra is the sun. Like how the sun is impartial to everyone, gives sunlight, very friendly, doesn't discriminate. I should give sunlight only to these people, I will not give to these people. No. Giving. So the qualities of a friend are like that. Loving, caring, giving, serving. So can I be a friend to people, if not unconditionally loving? Maitra. If there is somebody who is suffering, the third quality, karuna. Maitra karuna evacha. From devotion standpoint, mitrata also is, I am a friend of all. Bhagavan himself has said that earlier. And he even addresses Arjun here as Sakha in one of the chapters. You are my friend. And Bhagavan is a friend of all beings. Suhridam sarva bhutanam. In the Gita, beautiful line is Suhridam sarva bhutanam jnatva mam shantim richati. If you know that Bhagavan is your friend, a well-wisher, the jiva who knows that will become completely secure. If Bhagavan is not setting up there to punish, and he is not making those decisions that you should suffer, you should do this, you should go through hell, none of that. He is a well-wisher of all beings. And Suhrid means, so there is a difference between Suhrid and Mitra. So Mitra is somebody who will do good in return for good. Suhrid is somebody who will do good even if you have not done anything good to them. Person doesn't calculate. That is Suhrid. Hrid means heart. Su means good. Good-hearted person. So from a devotee standpoint, Bhagavan is a friend of all. So I am a friend of all. Then comes karuna. Maitra karuna evacha. If somebody is suffering, the devotee's heart throbs to go and do something actively. Famous example. Lots of them. So there was one story of Eknath Maharaj. So the tradition is one has to take Ganga water from there, from Varanasi, and walk down to Rameshwaram and do Abhishek on Shivlinga. And then take the sand from Rameshwaram and go to Varanasi and do the Abhishek of sand on Shivji in Varanasi. That is one of the Vrat. So Eknath Maharaj took the water, and remember he is from Maharashtra. So from Maharashtra he went all the way to Varanasi, took the Gangaji's water, started walking down, and this is walking. This is not like how we do. He is walking, and you are like a parivrajak, so you live on the arms, people will support you, and you take the name of the Lord, you chant, and that's a sadhana, so you go like that. So when he came to Andhra Pradesh, there's a drought, massive drought, and when he entered that state, he saw there was one donkey who was dying of thirst. He did not think even twice, took out the water that he had, Ganga Jal he had, and he gave it to the donkey. People next to him were wondering why did he do that? All the way from Varanasi you came walking down. It's only one more state you have to cross, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and you are there. And you have to do this again. But he did not think twice, because that is a karma. Compassion. So the devotee's compassion is a very different level of compassion. Like Gurudev's compassion, Shankaracharya's compassion. No one will not even understand their level of compassion. In this case of the donkey, you are seeing the physical suffering. But the suffering because of ignorance, which the majority goes through, is not even known even to the person who is suffering. But the saint knows that what is the difference when a person gains the knowledge of the self, how liberated and free and fulfilled one feels, and how one suffers in samsara actually, not even knowing that one is suffering. So when Gangaji is flowing down and Gurudev is seeing that, and the thought comes to him, why not take this knowledge to the masses? Nobody told Shankaracharya. So much of opposition against him also. That is the karuna. See, the karuna and no dvesha is such that the same people who oppose them, they don't hate them. They know that right now they are opposing, but once they understand the vision, they themselves will transform. And that's what happens. So many people who oppose these masters. Even Vivekananda. 8 years he roamed about in this country. Imagine your own sister commits suicide. And you are roaming in this country, dedicated your life to the country and for sharing of the knowledge of Vedanta. And you don't see any results happening. 8 years you roamed around in the country. And nothing happens. And when you go to America and then you speak there, then there is one rousing welcome they will give you when you come back to India. And they did that in Chennai when Vivekananda landed there. Big grand welcome. He could have got very upset with them saying, 8 years I was here, did you fellows listen to me? Now what big welcome you are giving? Nothing. No dvesh towards anybody. Not a moment he would have even regretted his thought that why did I even take up this thing for these people? Such ungrateful, useless people. You know, he writes in one of his letters, if you read letters of Vivekananda ji, they are a very powerful book. In one letter he writes, in India boys are not considered men. Meaning because he was young, he was 20-year-old when he went to Ramakrishna Paramahansa. By the time 32 he took Samadhi, 39 he took Samadhi, gone. And 8 years he roamed around, people thought of him as just an ordinary boy, what is he going to do? And in the same letter he writes, a son doesn't become a man till his father dies. Many things he writes in those letters. So the point here is that no dvesh they had, completely heart filled with karuna and compassion, going around sharing the knowledge with people. Same thing with Jesus also. He was the Messiah who came, for whom they were waiting. And he came to revive. And he revived also. But they crucified him. Same thing with Buddha also. Every great master who came, the world has not treated them properly. But they have happily done what they had to do because no dvesh and the heart is filled with karuna, maitri and this bhavana of oneness for all. So adveshta sarva bhutana maitra karuna evacha. This karuna is not pity. Pity is to look down upon somebody. Karuna is compassion, where one actively does something to remove the pain of somebody and goes to great length to do what one can do. There are no limits. And a lot of patience also it requires. Compassion without patience will lead to frustration very fast. Because it is not easy to see a change. And the change which these devotees and these saints they want to bring about is very deep level of change. If one expects change to happen like this and says, what is the point of my compassion? These fellows are not changing only. Then one will become frustrated. Which is what happens. No? Suppose the country has to change. How impatient all our people are. Unfortunately. One term also one doesn't give to a majority government which has come after so many decades. One term, 5 years. Give and see. Every incident will be judged. And perception is so different. Today the whole thing plays only on perception, not on reality. What is the perception that can be projected? It will just work on that perception only. So patience is very important. If a country has to also change, if individual change takes so much time, a whole country to change, how much time it takes? So, karuna, maitra karuna evacha. Then he says, nirmamo nirahankara. No minus and no I-ness. How does a devotee live that? Whatever is there belongs to Bhagavan. When we are attached to anything, that is what will cause us sorrow. Why should I not have I-ness and minus? Because attachment to I and mine only is the cause of my sorrow, nothing else. Functionally, I can own something. Psychologically, I should be free. Nothing should own me, nothing I should own. Then that is freedom. Aham and mama is the cause of all sorrow. If you see all the epics, they have to teach us that only. No? Attachment and sorrow, they go hand in hand. Both the wars which were fought, they were fought because of I and mine only. Mahabharata and Ramayana. Across the world, so many wars have been fought for that only, I and mine. So Ramakrishna always said that, God laughs on two occasions. One is when the brother divides two brothers. When they divide the land and they say, this belongs to me, that belongs to you. Then God laughs, saying, what? Everything belongs to me. You are saying this belongs to me and this belongs to you. One day you are going to get buried in that same land. You are going to come back to me and it is mine only. Second, he laughs when a doctor says to the patient that I will save you. Bhagavan wonders, kiska to karm khatam ho gaya. How is the doctor going to save him? How can the doctor even have that I-ness that, I am going to save you? That's why we always, in our medical center in Chennai and other places also, there's one nice t-shirt that the volunteers wear. We treat, he cures. Cure comes from Bhagavan only. There's no, that ahankar should not be there, that I did it. Nirmamo nirahankara. Example Gurudev used to give is when a child is there, he comes to the school, nursery school let us say, and comes and plays with the toys and everything. And when the child has to go home, the child cries. Why? Because the child doesn't want to leave these toys. 4 days, 5 days, the child will not leave without crying. Every day he will cry because he doesn't want to leave the toys. 6th day onwards he won't cry. Why? Because he has understood that tonight I will go back, today evening I will go back, tomorrow again I will come and play with these toys. So what? There is nothing, I am not losing anything. Just going away temporarily. Nobody is taking it away from me. Even if that much is understood, that nothing is taken away from us. Temporarily we go away from it or it goes away from us, based on whatever is the karma. And for a devotee, the attitude is the trustee. I am a trustee, so there was one very strong lady. So she had, means the couple did not have a child. And after lots of prayers, they got children. So 2 children. And these children are growing up slowly. One day it so happened, and this man is a priest. So when this priest comes back home, the wife asks him that if your neighbor gives you 2 pearl necklaces to keep for a few days because they are going out of town, what will you do? He says, I will keep. And she says, when they come back after 20 days and they ask you, will you return? She says, yes. He says, yes, I will return. She says, will you feel sad that, why is he taking away? She says, no, because they belong to him. Then she takes him inside and he sees that both the sons are dead. Both the children died. Some tragedy happened, both of them died. And the wife looks at the husband and said, God gave you 2 necklaces and he has taken them away. That was her attitude. So, no mamata, no I-ness. Why? Because Bhagavan gave, Bhagavan took. It is his will, he will do whatever has to be done. So, nirmamo nirahamkara, samadukha sukha, equanimous in happiness and sorrow. Yesterday we saw equanimity comes through acceptance. If acceptance is there in life, then only equanimity comes. And why will a devotee accept, and how can a devotee be equanimous in happiness and sorrow? Whatever is coming from the Lord and is coming according to my own karma. Bhagavan is karma phala data, karma adhyaksha. He only gives the power to act and he only gives the results also of action. So with that faith in the Lord and the cosmic justice, the person learns to be equanimous, samadukha sukha. And it will definitely happen that in life there will be people who will hurt us, who will injure us. What will a devotee do? Build feeling of revenge? You know how many lives just get lost because the purpose of their life is revenge. So if somebody's purpose of life is revenge, it is very nice to see on television screen. You know, somebody growing up from childhood with revenge and angry young man, and when he becomes big, and he takes revenge, and one feels, yes, justice was done now. Very good on the television screen. But every minute that fellow will be burning. Revenge is such a... It will destroy everything in that life of that person except that feeling that I have to destroy that person. With that bhavana, everything else will get destroyed. If you see this whole Mahabharata, Pandavas are rightfully entitled to even take revenge actually, but they don't. And Kauravas are constantly in dvesh. And so if you see two examples, Duryodhana and Karna, both of them have much more power than Bhim and Arjuna. But how much of dvesh in their heart, that their strength doesn't manifest. Entire strength goes only in destroying the other person, not in progressing oneself. How many countries also in the world are there like that, who are out to destroy other countries, not to manifest their potential. Their job is how to ensure that other people are constantly at war. How much of dvesh that is. So the heart of the devotee is forgiving. Kshami, forgive. Again, forgiveness comes when there is love. There is oneness. Forgiveness comes where there is a feeling of, I have also done wrong and I have been forgiven. Why should I not forgive? Kshama is one quality of the strong people. You see, the weak cannot forgive. In fact, weak have no choice but to forgive. If a boxer comes and gives one shot to you, is there a choice we have? We say, no, I forgive you, go. There is no possibility of giving one shot back to that man. The weak actually cannot really even retaliate or do anything. But a strong person who can retaliate, that person holds back, saying, not required. Why do I get down to that level? Forgiveness is the quality of the strong people, and for one's own sake one forgives. That I forgive for my peace of mind. So what do I have to let go? See, what we try to do is we try to let go of the incident. When they say forgive and forget, we should not forgive and forget in that sense. The incident is not a problem. The hurt is the problem. I need to let go of the hurt. Incident I may remember. 20 years ago somebody said something to me. It's a functional memory. But the psychological pain associated with that has to be dropped. If that pain is gone, I have forgiven and I accept it. Okay, whatever that person did in immaturity, I forgive, let go. If I can't be very friendly to that person, I maintain my distance. But I forgive. Then even if that incident I remember, or even if that person comes in front, my mind will not be disturbed. Because the hurt is dropped. How to let go of that hurt? That's why that feeling of love comes in, higher purpose comes in. That can I remember what is my higher purpose in life? Rather than allowing my emotion to hijack my own purpose and my own clarity in life. And every culture has ways of forgiving. In our culture, there is one way of forgiving is go to Gangaji, take a dip, sab paap dhul gaye. Meaning I am a new person. Start new. What? Good life. Not start with paap account again. Not like that. Somewhere else there is a confession box, somewhere else there is you write it and put it in fire, somewhere else you have some other method. Like today or yesterday, was that festival called Bhogi. In South India they celebrate Bhogi.
Today, because tomorrow is Sankranti.
So one day before, so today. So all the old stuff of the house you bring and you burn early in the morning. Idea is that you let go, how much clutter and all that rag, dvesh in the head you will have. Bring it out, burn it away, let it go, and then celebrate the joy of a pure mind, a clean mind. So that's the festival, Bhogi, and burns away. So these are ways by which one can let go. In the case of a devotee, the forgiveness operates at the highest level of devotee, forgiveness operates at a very different level. They will not even take offense. That is their level of forgiveness. Where is the question of forgiveness if one doesn't even take an offense? There was one Shastri who was very, very jealous of Tukaram. A real life story. Tukaram, he is not a Brahman, but great devotee of the Lord. And so many abhangs and all he composed and wrote it down and all that. And he was talking also on scripture. So this man, this Shastri, I forget the name of the Shastri. So this Shastri got very upset at Tukaram. He told Tukaram, you stop talking. He went and abused him and he became very angry. He said, you stop talking on the scriptures. You are not a Brahmin, you are not allowed to do all that. And throw away all your abhangs and everything. And this Tukaram actually took all his abhangs and it is said that he offered it into the river. And he was sitting there. No hurt in his heart, nothing. Imagine how many abhangs he has written and so many things of his whole life. Put it in the water and he was sitting there. And this Brahman who was the Shastri, he started feeling the heat sensation all over his body. He could not bear it. And it is said he ultimately went to Tukaram and asked forgiveness. He said, I am so sorry. I did not realize your greatness. And I got stuck in my petty little ego that you are not a Brahman, this and that. You are a real Brahman because you are living that sense of oneness. I am only a Brahman by birth. And it is said all the books also came up. Now how true that is, etc., that again, that is something debatable. But the point is that Tukaram did not have a feeling of hatredness towards this man, towards the Shastri. Same thing Eknath Maharaj also. 108 times that man spat on him and he did not take offense even once. Imagine if somebody calls us a donkey, finished. And our own neighbor calls or our own spouse calls, then all the more. Because we are deeply hurt that how did they know reality? I am a donkey. We get hurt by the fact only. But these people are not bothered. You tell anything, the world tells them anything, accuses them anything. My God. Really all these qualities, So like how Gandhiji used to recite his Chita Prajna Lakshana, a devotee can remember these, verse number 13 to 20 of this chapter. These values are very powerful, very, very strong. So Samadukha Sukha Kshami. Then he says Santushta Satatam Yogi, one who is always happy. So the simplest quality is I can be happy. Means not like a big complicated thing which I require to understand. The simplest is if I am a devotee, I should be happy. So one definition of a devotee is one who is always miserable. No, definition of an atheist is one who is always miserable, is an atheist. And one who always complains also is an atheist. So if I am a devotee, why will I complain? I learn to accept whatever is coming. Jai Vidhi Rakhe Ram, Tahi Vidhi Rahiye. Over. When we are children, we are learning all these bhajans. That is one advantage of coming to Balvihar class or any such class. These values get ingrained in childhood through all these. So, you see, this highest level of value is there in the mind of the child through a simple bhajan. Mukh mein ho Ram naam, Ram seva haath mein, tu akela nahi pyare, Ram tere saath mein. Simple bhajan these are, but you know what strength that is? That I am never alone, Bhagwan is always with me. Life of a person is built when that person has that strength. Otherwise, look at the world, how it goes on. Small little things, people committing suicide, and one wonders what is happening. One not only commits suicide, take one gun and shoot other people. What all is happening in the world? So these are small things that in childhood when we have learned these bhajans and prayers and this Gita chanting, the seeds are sown and they germinate after years together also. So Santushta Satatam, one who is always happy. So if I want to know whether I am a devotee or not, can I learn to be smiling? One of the last messages that Gurudev gave is keep smiling for me. And the whole Gita itself is called Ashoka Upanishad because of that. Where there is no shok. Ashoka Upanishad. So Santushta Satatam. Why is the devotee Santushta? One is because the devotee accepts whatever comes. At a deeper level, a devotee is Santushta because there is nothing more to gain. Having experienced oneness with Bhagwan, is there anything more that I need? When I don't need anything more, why should there be asantosh in life? Our situation is we get santushta when our desire is fulfilled. And again the next desire comes, so again asantosh. Or this desire will not last for long, the fulfillment will not last for long. So again there is one emptiness, so again asantosh. So if I learn to practice contentment at the mind level, that whatever comes in life I learn to be happy, then I can come to that Atma Santushti, that my nature is supreme bliss, I don't need anything to be happy. So one is Santosh of the mind, other is Santosh of the self. Atma Tripti, Atma Santushti. That was said in 3rd chapter. So Santosh is one very, very nice quality. Tush means to be satisfied. Santosh means to be completely satisfied. Nothing more that person needs. It's very nice, it is said that a spiritual person has very few worldly needs. And the worldly person has very few spiritual needs. Why does a spiritual person have very few worldly needs? Because got whatever is required. Learn the secret of happiness is the mind should become quiet. That is the secret of happiness. And found ways of making the mind quiet. Bas. Now no dependence on anything else. Very happy. And a worldly person has very few spiritual needs because the person doesn't understand what is spirituality. So Santushta Satatam Yogi, one who is always happy. Yatatma, one who is self-controlled. So devotee doesn't mean somebody who goes on eating laddus and peda and in the name of Ekadashi go on eating some special type of food. Yatatmas, ever self-controlled. Eats on time, sleeps on time, does the puja, japa, whatever, seva, proper. Yatatma, lives in self-control. And Dridha Nishchaya. The Nishchaya of this person is very strong, not oscillating. Sometimes people oscillate. Pata nahi ye Bhagavan is not responding to me. I think I better change this Bhagavan. They change Bhagavan also, they change mantra also, they change their seeking also, they change. I think spirituality बहुत हो गया अभी थोड़े दिन के लिए material हो जाते हैं. No, I have heard all this. I am not cooking it up. There are some people who will attend, regularly they will attend our classes. Then one day they will come and say, Swamiji, I think whatever I have to be learned, I have learned. Now it's a question of applying. So I think now I will go back. And I live in the world. Because anything excess is not good. That one line, how much public goes on misusing it actually. Anything excess, but whoever told you that this is excess? Spirituality has to be 24 hours, so it can never be excess. How did you say it is excess? No. My worldly duties are so many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In that, this is a hindrance. So, number of classes, that is a functional thing. But spiritual vision of life can never be excess. You cannot stop living in a spiritual way, saying, now it is an excess of spirituality. It is like saying, I am breathing excessively, so for a few days I will stop breathing. How can you stop breathing? 24 hours it has to go on. Try stopping that breathing. Sometimes I feel like telling that person that I said, no, because that person will not be in the right state of mind to listen. And misunderstand, saying Swamiji is taunting or something. So we keep it quiet. But that's a fact. How the body requires a breath and food, soul requires spirituality. We have forgotten only who we are, and then we are saying, no, it is too much of effort to know who we are. For a few days I want to be deluded. Then I will come back to finding who I am. How? It's like fish saying, I will stop swimming for a few days in the ocean. So, Santushta Satatam Yogi Yatatma Dridha Nishchaya. Be very determined that this is a path. Fix that path and walk. I am a sadhak, that should not change. Till one comes to realize that I am that one, I am one with Bhagavan. It can't go down. That I am a bhogi, I am a worldly man. No. How much sadhana it is to lift oneself to what level, and then stay there. And then go higher. That is Dridha Nishchaya. And Dridha Nishchaya has to be, how much? In the Upanishads it is said, in this life I will get mukti. That is called Dridha Nishchaya, Mumukshutvam. Having got a human birth, having come to Vedanta, what more is required? Is only my Mumukshutvam, Dridha Nishchaya, that I will realize the truth here and now. And you will realize it's a question of one's own Dridha Nishchaya. One's own mind says that, बहुत सारे जन्म बाकी हैं. This life, take it slow. That's one disadvantage of reincarnation theory. But anyway, one life theory also is useless. Because it doesn't even have a concept of moksha. It just says you popped out of nothing, go into nothing. So, Dridha Nishchaya, one should have a firm determination. And this Dridha Nishchaya applies in every small thing also. Suppose you decide at 7 o'clock you have to attend this program. But Nishchaya must be Dridha to say that yes, 7 o'clock I will come here. Or wherever else, you want to play tennis or you want to go for a walk. So you say that 6:30 in the morning I need to go for a walk. Then the Nishchaya has to be Dridha that I will go for a walk at 6:30. If the Nishchaya is strong, nothing will come in the way. If the Nishchaya is little weak, then in the morning at 6:20 one is tossing, turning, this, that, and one is thinking it's okay, 6:30 ka 6:40, 6:40 ka 7. As it suddenly become too cold now, and smog is increasing, and I will get respiratory infection, better be in this thing. If Dridha Nishchaya is there, one will say nothing to do. I will get up and do warm up at least till that sun comes out, then I am going out. So, Dridha Nishchaya, it can be in sadhana, it can be in food. Actually, sadhana, one of the purpose of sadhana is to develop this, Dridha Nishchaya. Because the mind will find escape routes. Again and again to pull it back and say nothing doing, you do it, do it, do it. Either out of love or out of willpower, but one has to push. So, Yatatma Dridha Nishchaya. Then he says, Mayyarpita Mano Buddhi. One who has invested the emotion and the thoughts in me, meaning surrendered completely. That integrated person is a devotee. This we saw yesterday, so I am not elaborating. Yo mat bhakta samay priyaha. Whoever is such a devotee, that devotee is very dear to me. Now see this line. Bhagavan says, such a devotee dear to me. Everybody says that I love Bhagavan. But whom does Bhagavan love? Whoever has these qualities, Bhagavan loves that person. Not only Bhagavan loves that person has become one with that Bhagavan. Further he says, Yasmanno dvijate lokaha lokanno dvijate chayaha. Who does not disturb the world and who is not disturbed by the world. Powerful quality. Who never disturbs the world. One of the definitions of a sadhak is that. Sadhak is one who is not a badhak. Who never disturbs anybody. Knowingly to impossible. Should not disturb him. Yasmanno dvijate loka. And the world does not disturb him. Why? Because he has no attachment, she has no attachment. No attachment. If I have no attachment, nothing in the world can disturb me. If I get disturbed because of something, it only means I am attached somewhere. Something I am insisting upon, something I am holding on to, and that is not happening, so then I am disturbed. It can be any level of attachment, sattvic attachment, rajasic attachment, tamasic attachment. But attachment will cause disturbance. So, yasman na udvijate, it is like the creatures in the ocean. They are not disturbed by the ocean, nor do they disturb the ocean. There is a harmony with which they live in the ocean. Just imagine how if creatures can live harmoniously with their environment, why we can't live harmoniously? A fish lives happily. And it may have its own issues, that's a different point maybe. So, yasman no udvijate. One who is not disturbed by the world, who does not disturb the world. Harsha, how does that person do that? The next line says, Harsha amarsha bhaya udvegaihi muktaha. One who is free from these three. Harsha, extreme elation. Amarsha, envy. And bhaya, fear. Harsha, amarsha, bhaya. The impulsiveness of these three. One is free from that. Meaning, these three will not make that person helplessly act because of their influence. Person will not act impulsively under extreme elation. Person will not act under fear. Person will not act under jealousy. They may even arise in the minds of that person. Means like seekers like us, not of the devotee, but the person doesn't allow it to affect them. They will control it. So extreme elation is something where this self-control can disappear. Elation is more difficult to handle than depression. But when one gets success, when one becomes very elated, one feels like breaking all boundaries. And from the peaks of success, one falls down. Very painful fall. How to remain grounded. That's why those earlier qualities, nirmamo, nirahankara, that attitude of a trustee, all that is so important. Somebody said, even yesterday when I was reading, somebody sent me a mail about investment, that how people are taught to be equanimous so that they make wise investment decisions. And they are taught not to act under impulse. because they act very impulsively. Suddenly there will be a fear that अभी stock market crash हो रहा है, so suddenly they will start withdrawing everything. Suddenly they will start investing. Somebody who was telling me about this mutual fund, that person explained, he said, Swamiji, one of the reasons why, first of all, there is not enough awareness about these mutual funds. And second is that people are not able to follow this point of equanimity. So if you invest in a mutual fund and continue to invest in spite of all the ups and downs in the stock market, because stock market is going to be ups and downs, over a period of time, whatever, 8 years, 10 years, your returns are very high. But people don't see that. And they want immediate. So they will do immediate trading, pulling, pushing, they will do that. Or they will lock it and put it in gold, or they will put it in land, or they will put it in FD. And he actually showed that see the returns of all these, and see the returns of the mutual fund, whatever. So one of the points what he was trying to tell me is that what we are learning in the Gita is applicable not only in the spiritual field, but it is applicable everywhere. Whether you want to commit in a relationship, or you want to have this investment, or you want to make a career choice, anywhere. This point is very important, not to act impulsively. Harsha, Amarsha, Bhaya, Udvegai. How much action happens out of fear and desperation? Lots of, psychology wise, if you analyze, majority of our actions are driven by fear. Not out of conviction or love. Out of fear, so much of fear. Even that urgency syndrome is like that only. Till the last minute one will not do. And then when it is absolutely urgent, out of desperation one will do it somehow. So the devotee is one who will plan systematically. Harsha, Amarsha, Bhaya, Udvegai, Mukta. Free from this. Yaha sacha me priyaha. Such a devotee is one who is extremely dear to me. Then he says, anapekshaha. No expectation psychologically. Please remember psychologically, not functionally. Functionally expectations will be there. I mean, you come here at 7, you have an expectation that I will come and talk. It's a functional expectation. But psychological expectation is what one is free from. That the talk will be in a particular way, for a particular, whatever expectation that one has. That is a psychological expectation, that dependency, anapeksha, shuchihi. This needs to be underlined actually. Devotee is a clean person. Unfortunately, how much our temples and this, that, how dirty they maintain it, my God. Even the house, you see the puja room of some of the people, Bapre. Bhagwan must be wondering, where you have dumped me here? You are wanting a big house, but where have you dumped me? Clean. Cleanliness is next to godliness, they say. No? So what is Shuchi actually? There are very, very many qualities that go in that. To explain that word Shuchi. One is Swachhata, that is cleanliness. Then Shuddhata, that is purity. So cleanliness and purity are two different things. Cleanliness can be external. Purity is the internal. Purity of mind, intention, nobility of motives. So Swachhata, Shuddhata, Pavitrata. Pavitrata means one is at a very, very spiritually pure. No trace of ego. Then that is called Shuchi. So literally the word Shuchi means so many of these. And it applies both ways. If there is Shuddhata in the mind, then there will be Swachhata outside also. And the Swachhata outside shows how much the Shuddhata in the mind is. in one place Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he made his devotee realize. So this devotee he says that he is a devotee, but he is not smart, and he goes to the vegetable market and buys some vegetables and brinjal and something, and he comes. He doesn't bother. He pays extra and comes back. So Ramakrishna says, what kind of tamas you have in your mind? You are not even calculating that if you give this many annas, then this much brinjal you should get. And you say in the name of devotion that I didn't bother. That is absolute lethargy in your mind. And then when he went to his room, he saw that room was in such a mess. He said, now I understand why you are in the state where you are. Because you have tamas in the mind, and that tamas in the mind is what is making you tamasic at the external level, and you are not even maintaining cleanliness. So that there is a connection between external cleanliness and internal cleanliness. So Shuchi, Anapeksha, Shuchi, Daksha, very efficient. The example what I gave now is for both these, Shuchi and Daksha. Daksha means one who is efficient and smart. Not, people always think Bhagat means what? ये तो बिचारा भगत है. They brand person also, ये भगत आदमी है. मतलब भगत आदमी है मतलब you can fool him. One saint said very, very nicely, he says, Bhagat jagat ko thagat hai, bhagat ko thage na koi. The real devotee is the one who actually has got out of the samsara. Bhagat jagat ko thagat hai. If jagat tries to bind him, he has escaped holding on to Bhagavan, saying that nobody can catch me. Bhagat jagat ko thagat hai. Bhagat ko thage na koi. Don't. If I am thinking that I am some bichara and Bhagavan will take care of me, Bhagavan will give one whip like Bhagavan gave to Arjun. How he shouted at Arjun. He said, Shudram Hridaya Daurbalyam. He said, you are acting so unmanly. This is the weakness of your heart. After the entire first chapter and crying and weeping of Arjun, not one word of sympathy ki bicha. Arjun, theek hai, it's okay. Nothing. One slap. Pata. And we go in front of Bhagavan. Mujhe bachao. God bachao. Bhagavan actually he whippers out. That is a better treatment than him consoling and all the time saying Are bichara, are bichara. Bhakta is never a bichara. Vivek and Shraddha Vanuvas, how can he be bichara? If he is a bichara, he is only stuck in ego. So, Shuchi, Daksha, Udasina, indifferent to petty, paltry things of life. Ut means up. Asina means to sit. One who sits above, meaning not stuck in all petty, paltry things. See, this person didn't do this for me, that person didn't smile, this person didn't remember my birthday. Hare Ram. Get out of all that. Petty little things. This thing I don't have, that facility I don't have. How does it matter? If my goal is high, I focus on that. That is called Udasina. Indifference is not in terms of duties. That I am indifferent to my duty. Not like that. That one does efficiently. That's why Daksha comes before Udasina. But Udasina is not bothered. If heat is there, heat is there. How much the weather is changing nowadays? If literally the mind is Udasin, honestly the body will also not go through so much of trouble. Weather keeps on changing, a few days now. Suddenly it was warm. Now again it started becoming cold. If the mind is stuck with these, some people always say that, weather is changing constantly. That's why you are falling sick. But that's the nature of weather. It will keep changing. If my mind is available for this, my body also will be available for this. Mind is not available. Focusing on the work, focusing in sadhana, goes on. Udasina. Gata Vyatha. Free from sorrow. Vyatha literally means lamenting. So if I am a devotee, I will not lament. I will not victimize myself. I will not go on complaining, cribbing, crying. There are some people who are not Gata Vyatha. They are Sada Vyatha. They are always in Vyatha. Going on lamenting. They need something to lament on an everyday basis. Go on victimizing themselves. If nothing, government is anywhere there. Go on lamenting. They can't be happy. Go on crying, complaining, feeling, okay, all the sorrow of the world is in me only. Everybody is out to conspire against me. All kinds of victimizing. Gatavyatha says all free from all that. Sarvarambha Parityagi. This one is misunderstood by majority. Sarvarambha Parityagi doesn't mean that who never starts anything new. Arambha means new. Sarva means everything. So anything new that devotee will never start. Meaning what? The devotee cannot take new initiatives. That has brought about the downfall of our culture also. When nothing new we will start. Nothing modern, nothing adapting, nothing new. Whatever they will go on doing. It only means no egoistic initiative. A devotee will not start anything with the attitude that this will bring me fame. If this is going to take the glory of the Lord ahead, let me be an instrument. That's all. No self-aggrandizing motive. That is called Sarva Arambha Parityagi, Yo Mad Bhakta Same Priya. So now these are the basic major qualities. The rest of the verses, is the same thing repeated. Na rishyati, na dveshti, does not have elation, does not have dvesha, does not sorrow, does not have desire. Shubha Shubha Parityagi has given up both attachment to Shubha and Ashubha. Bhaktimanya Same Priya. Now it doesn't mean the devotee's life is a vegetable, no anger, no hatred, no happiness, no fear, nothing. So what is the life of a devotee? It is not a vegetable. The life of a devotee is inspiration. Always living united with the Lord. Sama shatraucha mitrecha tatha mana apamana yoga shitoshna sukha dukkheshu sama sangha vivarjita. All same qualities. But each of them expressed in different ways. Tulya ninda stutir mauni, same in praise and criticism. Santushto yena kena chit. Whatever life brings is happy with that. Aniketa, a very nice quality. Means homeless. So don't, from here you go home. Don't say somebody said homeless, so I am going now. Homeless means home is a symbol of attachment. It's my house. With my effort I built it. Or my father gave it to me. So that minus, that home is a symbol of karma phala. Attachment to karma phala is home. So aniketa means one who does not limit himself to one home, does not think that this is mine. So very nice line says, he who does not have a home anywhere but is at home everywhere. Means the whole world is my home. That internal feeling. Externally you still go to whichever house you have. Don't walk into somebody's house saying the whole world is mine, I'm going to stay here. It's a psychological expansion basically, not a contraction. That is one thing. So aniketa. So a sannyasi is like that. A bhakta is also like that. Aniketa also means something very nice, that one who stops living in one physical house but he lives in the hearts of all people. Because a person has no dvesh for anybody, that person will be loved by all. Aniketa. And sthiramatihi. The last quality he gives here is sthiramati, whose mind does not oscillate. Earlier it said dhrida nischaya. Now it says sthiramati. Mind does not oscillate. Bhakti manya same priya. So from 13 to 19, these are actually 36 qualities which are there. Many are repetitions. Now we conclude this chapter where Bhagavan says that this is Amrita. These values and this knowledge is Amrita. Ye tu dharmyamritamidam yathoktam paryupasate shraddhadhana matparamaha भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रियाः. Says yetu amritam dharma. This immortal dharma, whoever follows, yatha uktam paripasate. As it was said, that way the person follows. Shraddha dhana, with supreme faith. Mat paramaha, considering him as the supreme. Such devotees are extremely dear to me. Bhaktaste ativa me priyaha. They are extremely dear to me. Means what? So there are people so who have seen, so I don't remember the exact line, but what it means is this, that those who have, so Jesus, it apparently is said by Jesus, he said that blessed are those who have seen me and worshipped me, but more blessed are those who have not seen me and still worship me. So that's the import, that those devotees who have become one with the Lord, they worship the Lord, natural, because they are one with the Lord and they see the Lord alone everywhere. But those who have faith, Shraddha Dhana Mat Parama, and consider the Lord as supreme, they have faith, they have not yet realized that supreme state. But Bhagavan says here, when they follow this, they are extremely dear to me and they will definitely come to me. So with this, the 12th chapter ends, and also the second section of the Gita, which is chapter 7 to 12, that also ends. Next month onwards, we will do the third section, which is from 13 to 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18,